Good morning. It's Sunday morning here in Cypress, Texas. Goodness gracious. This morning, well, yesterday was like a whole day of it. So, as I suspected, Esau, after killing Nimrod, this is the second Nimrod, by the way. There was Nimrod, the original Nimrod, who was torn apart by a boar. And his wife got pregnant, claimed that his spirit laid with her and came to her and got her pregnant, and it was she had another son of he was him reincarnated. That's the one that Esau took out. Okay, so Esau in after desperately running and getting away from Nimrod's soldiers, that's when he comes in and there's Jacob making a stew. And he's like, so two things are going through his head. He's like super exhausted, thinking he's gonna die of exhaustion, right? And two, he's thinking, because I killed the big guy, and I'm gonna be the big guy. And Esau was set on the same thing that Nimrod was, and that was world domination. Something else, right? So when he gives up his birthright, which is the land of Canaan, he's like, yeah, whatever, I got the rest of the world, because I beat the big guy. Okay. So now it got me looking at the antagonist protagonist relationships throughout the Bible. Okay, so Adam, his antagonist was the serpent. Okay, and it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. It's always disclosing just enough information, but concealing all of it, and in that process keeps people down. Okay, right? And so that happened, and that shut Adam off from the garden, which was in our mind. Okay, and having the connection, the seeing in the future, vision. Okay, faith and vision. Okay, and then there's always a jealousy going on. So that's what Cain and Abel. That jealousy. Abel was starting to get some hope and vision, and because of his sacrifice. All right, and then it goes, and then there's Noah, and it's Noah against everybody else. Everybody else is the antagonist. Okay, Noah's the protagonist, and and he prevails. Okay, he's got a vision and hope, right? Building the ark, all that time building that ark, and then after the flood, it's Noah and Ham. Okay, and then Ham, he rejects his father's authority, which is rejecting God, and that gets spread, okay, to Nimrod. Nimrod was his grandson. Okay, Nimrod doesn't want to wait on God. Nimrod seeks other sources, which were these oracles. They studied the stars, the first astrologists, right? And through them, he gets people to limit themselves by believing in the zodiac, right? They put labels on themselves and they adhere to those labels. It's amazing, right? And then Nimrod, the first Nimrod gets torn apart by a wild boar, right? His wife gets pregnant, claims that the spirit of Nimrod came to her, got her pregnant, and the child inside her is Nimrod reincarnated. That's the one that Esau takes out, right? There's so Abraham's antagonist is Nimrod. Okay, Nimrod, and then the king of Sodom, right? And wild, right? And so going through this, what's the difference, right? It's that slave mentality versus the faith mentality, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I run into this every day with what I do. There's the job mentality versus the entrepreneur mentality. Same thing, right? It's the same thing, right? It's there's even with salespeople, right? There's guys that are killer closers, man. You get someone in front of them, they're down like a clown, but they can't hustle up their own business. Or even if they can, right? They don't know how to open the door. They've got a whole bunch running into that right now. Okay, and you either cave and give up, or you figure it out, right? Wow. So coming around throughout the Bible, there's been the remediator, for no better term, right? Things get contaminated. I'm learning about this word, apathy, right? Like atrophy with a P. And how that it's in a system, it breaks down. Okay, so somebody has to come in. That's a lot of times that's what business consultants do. They rejuvenate a city. Stephen Covey, in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about leaders. Leaders got their machete, start blazing the trail through the jungle, right? And laying a bunch of debris behind him, and the managers are like, well, okay, let's start cleaning up let's start clearing that path. He's going somewhere, right? And then they get a nice assembly line going. They give him water when he's thirsty. They wipe his brow when he's sweaty. They sharpen his machete when it gets dull. They clear up the debris behind him, and after a while, the leader's like, okay, everybody, wrong jungle. And the manager's like, shut up and keep moving. At least we're making progress, right? And and it's that's so that's what is that? What is that? Right? It's the job mentality versus the entrepreneur mentality. Okay, if you got a business and you're making progress in it, right? Then it's easy to bring people on, right, to help you, but it's hard to get them to catch the vision, right? And then, but if you're the leader and you don't have a system for them to for your support team to follow, guess what? They come up with their own that you got to follow. Okay, and that's what's happened. Okay, that's what's happened all the way from Nimrod to Christ, and right now. Okay, and the Christ came to teach the true meaning of the word. Okay, the true meaning of the law. Okay, when you dig in and you look at the three-dimensional meaning of the words have new meaning, and they mean something totally different. Okay, in the law and in Revelations. Okay, Revelations especially. If you just go by the letter of the word, right, it leads you down a path of calamity, devastation, and destruction. But when you understand the real meaning, where that conflict is all within us, right, and when we fix that, we fix everything. You know, space between the top of your head and the bottom of your feet, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. Okay, wow, that goes way back for me, and it changes everything. Now you're Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now, walking through the battlefield like you're taking a walk in the park, unscathed by all the calamity and devastation, right? But you gotta, it's but the thing is we have to let everybody else know. We have to let her, so if you realize that in the scripture, in the Bible, that what's all happening, you don't, because it's not all in there. Okay, like Esau taking out the second Nimrod, now gives up his birthright. Why? Because he thinks he's inherited the whole rest of the world because he killed the top guy. So yeah, I go ahead and take the land of Canaan. All right, that's where Israel is right now. That's how it came to be. Okay, and what Jacob did, Jacob continually had vision, right? Continually kept looking for opportunity. Total entrepreneur. Jacob's a total entrepreneur, right? And what happened? Okay, so now, every time antagonist is slave mentality, job mentality, right? Giving yourself an unfair advantage, giving themselves unfair advantage, and the protagonist, right, is always looking for a greater vision, trying to find the path, right, having faith, right, and that's always the one that wins, right, always the one that brings things forward, okay, and how? By the true understanding, okay, which has been lost for a long time, right, and now it's coming back, and the same thing happens that happened with Josiah in the Old Testament, after Solomon dies, right, and his grandson Josiah becomes the king, and he has an audit done, and he gets given the Torah, and he's like starts making it, putting it all back together, and then he gets killed by an arrow in battle, right? But he keeps, he tried to, then it was lost again, and then they were in captivity. The Jews were in captivity again in Babylon, and then by the Persians, and the Persians put them back in Israel, and they tried to rebuild it again. Okay, but it wasn't going to be as grand as it was that Solomon built, right? But because they had it all, they misinterpreted. Okay, and that house that should have been built within us, all right? And that's what I'm learning from Apostle Michael Petro with the Voice of Healing Church, learning the true meanings of the words. Okay, but when you understand that what that understanding brings you, okay, it's walking in faith. That means taking action in faith, not just faith. That's what Rabbi Tim is trying to teach. Okay, but it's you got to grow it. You got to bring it to the rest of the world. Okay, and otherwise, everybody's following the letter of the word, which is leading to calamity and destruction and devastation. All right. Have a great Sunday.